Hey, guess what? Welcome to Straight Up, right? It's 8 o'clock in beautiful, where it is we are. Sometimes we don't even know where we are, but it's 9 o'clock in Guyana. It's 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Spread the word that we're ready to rock and roll with some serious business right here on 107.1 FM. Good evening to all of you on the ground and all of you on social media as well. Do share the link. When was the last time we played this video? Let's start off with this video, and we'll be right back with more Straight Up.
What is the difference between the ordinary thief and a political thief? Number one, the ordinary thief steals your money, your bag, your watch, and your jewelry, isn't it? But the political thief steals your future, your career, your education, your health, and your business. Number two, the hilarious part is that the ordinary thief will choose whom to rob. But you are the one who choose the political thief to rob you. Because we choose them. We vote them. We blindly say we are not blind. Who is deceiving who? The ridiculous part of the whole issue is that we will fight to defend and protect our belongings from the ordinary thief. Is it not? But we fight each other to defend and protect the political thief. Is that not what we do? Thugs will be fighting themselves to protect those that are stealing our career, stealing our joy, stealing our health, stealing our success. What a shame. What a travesty. It calls for us to think and think deep. The stage we are in as a country is not a stage where you become an onlooker. You have become an onlooker for too long. You must get ready to put your hands to the plow and be part of the process. not just about PVC, carry PVC. You must be in the kitchen where it is being determined. You must be there where the decisions are being made. If we are there in our numbers, they cannot outnumber us. But you leave it aloof. Oh, no, it's too dirty. It's a dirty game. And then the dirty guy is getting to the game of play. And you are there not showing up. And when they begin to make the decisions, you will know whether it's a dirty game or not. The result is always dirty on yours. Dirty on your health. Dirty on your business. Dirty on your success and your career. I hope that is stirring up something in you.
If you are looking to have your statutory declaration, affidavit of income, identity, damage or lost passport, lost license, tenancy agreement, agreement of settlement, power of attorney, last will and testament, and certification of documents, then you need to visit the Alistair Collins firm, located at the Killian Mall, 162 Lamaha Street in Georgetown, between Camp and Waterloo Street. Alistair Collins is a commissioner of oaths and a justice of the peace. Make certain you visit him or call for more information at 649-6410 or 685-6448 or 503-1451. And there's adequate parking available. Go down to the Alistair Collins firm and have all of your legal issues settled and brought to the fore. Alistair Collins firm. Contact them at Alistair Collins firm.
It's an eco-friendly Christmas. The Guyana Public Service Cooperative Credit Union is pleased to present our annual Christmas promotion, commencing November 1st, 2021 and concludes December 17, 2021. The credit union recognizes and acknowledges the importance of minimizing our carbon footprint and has tailored this year's promotion to suit by presenting our members with an electric car and bikes, which will undoubtedly raise awareness and help our members to adopt. To participate, one must be a member of the Guyana Public Service Cooperative Credit Union, must like and follow the credit union's Facebook page, must have an existing loan with the credit union, must be in good standing with the credit union, must not be an immediate family member of any staff or committee member, must earn a gross of less than $150,000 monthly, and proof of this fact must be attached. And only one coupon is allowed per member. It's an eco-friendly Christmas.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
All right, guess what? Welcome to Straight Up. Welcome to Straight Up. We are going to rock and roll. Do share the link. Please share the link. You don't have to be afraid to be with us. We tell it like it is. Straight Up. Miss Booker. We see you here. Miss Booker doesn't miss a show. She gets up in the morning. She starts with my guests. They're going to help me pronounce that youngster's name, Kadaki. There we go. Thank you, Christopher Jones. I see them behind in the studio smiling. Kadaki, Bostonian, right? And then they get straight into after they finish reading the Village Voice and so forth. They get straight into this brand new show on 107.1 FM. This brand new show. You can't go wrong at all, right? You can't go wrong at all. It's going to be the hottest morning show in Guyana, the hottest mid-morning show in Guyana, with that young lady, Gabriella Patram, and Selector Andre. That's how they do it, right? Good. All the information you need to. So tune in tomorrow, 9 o'clock Guyana time. They have lots of information on this show. And let me take the time out to congratulate Miss Patram and her DJ, Selector Andre. I don't know who Selector Andre is, but I tell you what, he's doing a darn good job with the selection of the music. All right, so let's get straight down to business. Let me say this to you guys once and for all, and I'll be very, very straight up with you. I am watching you this evening. All of you, I am watching. Now, let me take this. Okay, how do I do it? Lemon. Lemon almost walked off the job today. I just must let you guys know as a result of, you guys know what, right? All right, let me show you guys my face this evening. Good evening to all of you. Gladstone Matthews. Gladstone Matthews. I don't know if he's related to Gavin Matthews, but I can, yeah, maybe he probably is related to Gavin Matthews, Gladstone and Gavin. And then we have Sherwin. Sherwin, good evening to you. Happy anniversary to Sherwin and his beautiful wife. I'm not sure how she was able to find someone like Sherwin Green, but she found him. She probably, I don't know. She found him though. But he's a good guy. He's a very, very good guy. Sometimes he misbehaves. I see him on the live here, misbehaving, but he's a good guy. Happy anniversary to you, Sherwin. Now let's get down to business. If you don't share the link, right? You thought I was going to do something else, right? You thought I was going to tell you about something else, right? But if you don't share the link, you will be suspended for 1 week. You will be suspended for 1 week right here on 107.1 FM. We will suspend you guys. Lex Mingo, you had to smile about that, right? But if you don't share the link, you will be suspended. I will give you guys 1 minute to share the link. We're watching all of you. Troy Cumberbatch, Hollis London, all of you, including you, Rex, Lex Mingo. All of you, if you don't share the link. Carl Miller, same to you too. Now, you're not seeing our names at the bottom there. It's because we are under construction, right? We are doing some things in the studio, our radio station studio underground in Guyana. So we'll hopefully get to that. Let me give you guys, I'll sit back for 30 seconds and allow you guys to share the link. And Lemon, please, those who don't share the link, do the honorable thing and ban them for 1 week from Straight Up. I'll sit right here and watch them share the link. That's all, for 30 seconds. What a friend we have in Jesus. All our sins and praise we give. What a privilege to carry everything to God in prayers. If you don't share the link, Lemon, do the honorable thing. Do the honorable thing. Thank you, Lemon. Do the honorable thing. We're getting serious with Straight Up now. We run a radio station. And we will get very, very serious here now. If you don't share the link, Lemon, let me know who hasn't shared the link and put them straight in the lockbox for 1 week. And when you finish sharing the link, our executive producer, along with our senior operator, we mean business tonight. This is our cup. Well, it's a bowl. You know, when you go to church, some other people think that we are easy on this show. We are not easy. Y'all got to drop things in this bowl, in this cup. We will have our collection guy, Lemon, will be walking around. We mean business at 107.1 FM. And those of you who don't drop anything in here, you will be suspended for 1 week. Good evening to all of you guys. Every single one of you. Every single one of you. I noticed the Honorable Member of Parliament, Christopher Jones, when I showed this donation cup, he started to laugh. This is our collection. What's in here, man? Lemon doing all sorts of things. Get bitter stick and all these sorts of things. Good evening to everyone. All of you.
Good evening, Mark.
Good evening to you, Honorable MPs. The Chief Whip, Christopher Jones. Good evening to you. Good evening to the Honorable Ganesh Mahipal, who acts as the Chief Whip when the Chief Whip is not around. It's a pleasure to have you both with us.
Good
Ganesh,
evening, Mark. Good evening.
how are you doing, sir?
I'm good. No complaints.
Yeah.
Tired, but good.
Yeah.
Chris, how are you doing? How have you been, sir?
Well, same. Ganesh knows why he said a bit tired because we started our engagement at about 9 o'clock this morning, and literally 5 minutes before your program went on air, we just came out of another session. So we're here, but we're good.
Yeah, I've heard of that you guys have had a long day, and I want our listeners to know that. And I want to commend you guys because it was the last minute I called, and you guys accepted. And I'm glad that you have accepted. Let's get straight down into business. Lots of things happening in the country. I've noticed some folks from the National Law Association, and the National Law Association of the U.S. is basically an organization that they represent an organization that actually represents Black lawyers and judges in the United States of America. I spoke with one of the senior ones there in Guyana, and we had a nice conversation. And for me, my opinion is that the opposition needs to be very proactive in these things. The signs are always there. These people signal that they would have been heading down to Guyana and all these things. And sometimes we wait until the folks are there, then we start to kick up a rumpus, as we would say. They start to jump on the rooftop. And I'm not knocking you guys MPs. This is nothing personal, but I think the game has to be up. They have to be far more proactive when it comes to these the installed regime baiting these Black organizations in the U.S. You guys have to be on your medi, so to speak. What is your take, though, Mr. Chief Whip, on these Black groups that are being invited by the PPPC installed regime to visit Guyana? What is your take on that, Mr.?
Well, Mark, first let me say that it is no secret that the PPP is trying to change the narrative of what exists in Guyana currently as it relates to their behavior pattern towards Guyanese of African descent. And of course, those voices of the African community has been raised very loud, both nationally, regionally, and internationally. And the PPP is essentially trying to push back on that. We saw recently when a group of them were in the United States, they tried to visit a few Black churches and so forth, which is essentially, as I said before, to change the narrative of the reality, what is happening in Guyana. There is a lot of atrocities being meted out to Guyanese of African descent, whether it range from their dismissals from the public service, whether it is from the African contractors who have been denied contracts or contracts of a large size and so forth. But Mark, I want to add that in terms of being proactive, the very organization that you spoke about that is currently in Guyana, just this afternoon, two of my MPs, namely Amanza Walton Desir, Comrade Roysdale Ford, and attorney at law Darren Wade, they engaged the same group this afternoon. They had an engagement with them. And of course, by late this evening, we will be debriefed in terms of the discussion that was had with them. So it is not a case in which these organizations arrive in Guyana, engage with the PPP, and the opposition doesn't grasp the opportunity to share with them the reality in terms of what is happening on the ground.
I'm glad that the point I'm making that the young judge all the way in Mississippi, well, I've been in touch with him since last year. And it was surprising that on a tweet that he did not so long ago, claiming that he was invited. And he boasts about these things. And especially coming from Mississippi, especially being a representative, the president of the National Bar Association, representing Black lawyers and judges in the United States of America. And when I say Black lawyers and judges, it means even if Baldier from Queens is a lawyer, he's also part of this Black Association lawyers, right? And so these people need to be doing their homework. And one of the points I made too, they need to be doing their homework when they visit certain countries. You are correct, Mr. Jones, that there have been lots of atrocities and the breakdown of rule of law in Guyana. And I'm surprised that they would have accepted an invitation under those circumstances. Mr. Ganesh Mahipal, your take on that?
Well, I can only concur with Christopher Jones on the matter. I share similar sentiments. The People's Progressive Party wants to change the narrative, and in so doing, they are basically extending invitations to these Afro organization, and hopefully their intention, I am assuming, is to bring them into the country and basically paint them with information that that one is yet to substantiate. We have a country where it is evident in terms of how the perceived APNU AFC supporters are treated. And as much as I can isolate it to the Black communities, I want to also incorporate Indo-Guyanese who are supporters of this coalition, Amerindian Guyanese who are also supporters of the coalition. As long as you are perceived to be a supporter of the coalition, this government basically park you in a corner and they give you the worst of treatment. And then they say that they talk about one Guyana. They talk about love, unity, and togetherness, but you don't see it in their actions. And we have adumbrated on numerous occasions a series of activities that they conducted, which are questionable still because of how it was done. And it started with the COVID cash grant distribution, where communities that are perceived coalition communities, mostly Afro-Guyanese communities, were basically given the royal runaround to collect their COVID cash grant. Some of them had to go in and show the distributors their homes, their kitchen, their lavatory facility, and a whole host of other prerequisites before they were given the $25,000. A lot of them are still with the pink slip. Then you have the farmers' cash grant for the flood relief. A number of Afro-Guyanese farmers are still crying out for assistance. I know of a number in Region 5 that are yet to receive any sort of assistance. Region 3 has also. So the practice of the regime is one that is very, very much questionable. And then they speak of something else, painting a picture as though it's good and glorious in Guyana. And I can only say that I concur with my brother Christopher Jones on the position he has taken reference to the matter. And it is very, very shocking to know that human beings can operate in such a manner when you are supposed to be serving in the office for the people. And that is what one would have expected. But then again, these people were never elected by the people. So I guess we cannot expect better from them.
You know, you are correct. We can't expect, and of course, we don't expect better from them. All we're seeing is hustling upon hustling upon hustling, corruption upon corruption, discrimination upon discrimination, racism. I agree with you, Honorable MP Mahipal, that this discrimination, even though, yes, the bulk of it and racism against persons of African descent, we have those of our Indian brothers and sisters are also being discriminated against by this installed PPP regime. Our Amerindian brothers and sisters and others are being discriminated. But, you know, I hold a position, gentlemen, that we shouldn't wait or the opposition shouldn't wait until these organizations who are in Guyana and make it appear as though you're begging them to meet for a meeting. It's like, oh, you guys meet with us, please. Meet with us, please. You know, maybe a different method should be applied, that these folks who barge into Guyana they do not understand what is going on, and upon invitation and so forth from people like Irfan Ali, they come to Guyana. They are wine, they are dined, they stayed at the most expensive hotels. They have police escorts, and so they feel comfortable. Maybe they should be visited by a few folks protesting in front of the hotels and so forth. I wasn't going to ask you, Mr. Jones, what's your thought on that? But let us go to the COVID-19 crisis in Guyana. The regime's still not doing much at all. But what is your take on that, Mr. Jones?
Well, yeah, I mean, to say that the regime isn't doing much at all, Mark, is essentially an understatement. I think essentially the PPP has dropped the ball as it relates to COVID-19 months ago. There is absolutely no contact tracing that is done. Persons who are infected are just simply asked to go and stay at home for 14 days or whatever the case be, and as such putting their own family members at risk. And then plus those very persons who are supposed to be in home isolation are seen on the road traversing around. There's no policing of these persons who have been asked to remain in their homes and so forth. So essentially the entire ball has been dropped. Guyana currently, and speaking without fear of success or contradiction, Guyana currently has no system in place as it relates to COVID-19. I can say that factually. From what I mentioned before. And then what is worse, if a person is infected and God forbid they end up at the facility that is there is a number of equipment that is absent. There are a number of doctors with the requisite knowledge to treat persons who are in respiratory distress is absent from the hospital. I'll give you some example from our colleague Imran Khan that died at the Liliendahl facility. And when the very questions were asked about the necessary doctors with those necessary skills in terms of respiratory, they are absent, they're not there at the hospital. Imran needed a scan done. And amazingly enough, at the Liliendahl facility, with billions of the taxpayers' dollars that have been allocated in 2 successive budgets, doesn't have a scanning machine to facilitate that. And essentially, the doctors who were working with Imran needed to know the level of infection that was there in his lungs. And there is no scanner there to facilitate that. And that is just one piece of equipment that is absent from it. So while there are a lot of pronouncement by Irfan Ali or Frank Anthony as it relates to COVID-19, essentially the PPP continues to use COVID-19 as a cash cow, that they continue to show the numbers are increasing, the numbers of deaths are increasing, with a view of the international community coming in to rescue Guyana and sending millions of US dollars into the coffers of the country. Of course, it is expected that those monies will be used to fight COVID-19, but instead is going to somewhere else. PPP has always used disasters to their interests. I can take you as far back as the 2005 floods that we had in this country, when many international communities were doling out millions of US dollars to the people of Guyana with the belief that these monies are going to help the people to recover, to get back on their feet and so forth. Nothing of the sort was done. And the PPP is currently using COVID-19 as a second cash cow, while the population continues to be infected, while the death rate continues to soar. And I asked the question some time ago. We started the vaccination program back in March of this year. And like you would have seen in the US and other developing countries, is that they will tell you that the infection rate of a particular state has been 10 person per day. And since they started to use the vaccination, you see a decrease in that. In Guyana, we have no numbers. We haven't been told that the infection rate has since decreased. We haven't been told in a particular region, in a particular village, since using the vaccine, that the numbers have decreased. Nothing at all. There's absolutely no information guiding you. And that in itself tells you that there is absolutely no program in place in which the government is ensuring that persons take the vaccine. And of course, based on the numbers, they are seeing reduction in the infection rate. All of that is out the door.
Definitely out. We're not seeing that, and it's pretty obvious that they just don't know how to govern. It is as simple as that, Mr. Mahipal. Uh, one may say that over the past month or so, or prior to us entering into November month, maybe October, September, and so forth, the opposition was busy on this COVID-19 campaign and trying to ensure that they force the regime, the installed regime, to do better. They're just not doing much. 5 persons have died today, 3 or 4 persons yesterday, the other day, every single day. But it seems as though the coalition opposition, they have slowed down a little bit on their campaign to force this regime to do more on COVID-19. Is that an accurate assessment, sir?
I wouldn't agree that it's an accurate assessment. What I would say is that this regime simply doesn't care for the people of this country. And perhaps the biggest sham in the entire Ministry of Health is this COVID-19 guideline, which one would have expected some degree of sensibleness to prevail. I mean, you have all these deaths, and instead of you recognizing the need for stringent measures so as to protect your citizens, you are basically opening up because you have and your friends have interests that you want to satisfy. That is what you're seeing from this regime. This regime just doesn't care for the people of this country. And we have spoken on this a number of times, Mark, right here on this program, where it was mentioned that greater focus should be on the preventative measures, promote washing of hands, promote keeping social distances, promote the fact that you need to sanitize regularly. And the coalition, when they were faced with this pandemic, they had an operation in place that was still giving you the result these offices required to produce. And that was the rotation system of our public servants working.
Mhm.
And basically, the focus was on the essentials. And we did not see the amount of deaths we are seeing now. And the fact must remain, and the fact is that the coalition had a better hand in terms of dealing with this COVID pandemic. Now, the opposition has a role to play in calling out the government, and we have been doing that ad nauseum. We continue to call, but we must not just aim at the opposition to say that the opposition alone has that responsibility, because this is a national issue. You have been doing your part, Mark, and I'm sure you will continue to do your part. But all of Guyana, the world at large, must play their part in ensuring that a greater focus is given to this pandemic and how countries respond to it. Guyana is no exception. I find that people oftentimes have the energy to chastise the opposition instead of joining with the opposition to call out the fraudulent regime and their practice. Now, the same energy that you take to say the opposition is doing nothing, you can use that energy to do something with the opposition. Join with the opposition and make the call. Join with the opposition and say that the government is not focusing on their priorities, on the country's priorities, on saving lives, on protecting the citizenry. Join with the opposition. But if you are going to take a line to chastise the opposition and not recognize that you can play a meaningful role in contributing with the opposition to call out the fraudulent regime, then something got to be wrong with all of us.
Well, something has got to be wrong with all of us, indeed. But I would say, and I've noticed, Norman Brown. Good evening to you, Norman.
Good evening, Norman. Norman is my friend.
Norman is everybody's friend. Good evening. Well, it's morning in London, and Norman is up. Norman don't sleep these days, man. But Norman has a point, because there is this perception, and this is for the chief whip. There is this perception that the opposition doesn't do enough in calling out and holding this installed PPP regime accountable. What is your take, Honorable Chief Whip?
Well, you see, Mark, whatever one is doing, there is always more that can be done. And my own assessment is that we have been doing our part. The opposition members of parliament have been calling out the government as it relates to various issues, not only COVID-19. I would want to say perhaps we have the same issue that we had while the coalition was in government in terms of poor PR. To publicize that, you would note that unlike—
So wait a minute. Are you accepting that you guys have had poor PR?
No.
Is that what you said? Correct me.
Listen, no, I'm not correct. You're correct. I've been, I mean, even while in office, because even at my department that I operated, the amount of work that we would have done in the National Sports Commission, even to date, when I'm telling persons that currently in the United States, there are young people that the Sports Commission provided a full scholarship, some of whom are now returning back home. And they were unaware of this. I tell them about sports grounds.
For the lack of PR, Honorable MP, who do you blame? Because it is something, Mr. Jones, it is something that for almost 5 years, right here on 107.1 FM, it has been said on numerous occasions. And even other folks have been talking about the lack of proper PR. Who do you guys blame? You guys had the PR team, you had DPI, you had Chronicle, you had all these different things, man. And look, you guys, it's not like you guys were not working. You guys did a heck of a lot of good work.
Correct. You see, essentially for me, I can't cast the blame on any one specific. In fact, at some point in time while in government, I started coming to the realization that perhaps, you know what, the coalition is doing so much that not even the current PR could keep up with what we're doing. You know, you had all of the ministries had their own PR unit, and they too have been putting the information out there. But as to what medium the public is using at a particular time, that they access that particular information at that time. So it is all of that. But I agree with you that.
But you know, Chris, you have been in the PR business for a while.
Correct.
You should have been putting out your own PR through your ministry.
I have been.
Mark,
but you know, but before Ganesh, and you know, sure, Mark, that too got me in a bit of trouble too internally. But that's a different story. But as I said, though, is that essentially currently all of the MPs are doing what they're supposed to be doing. The various areas that they have responsibility for, they have been putting out statements. They have been speaking on programs like yours, like Sherrod's. Some of the MPs have their very own program. To a large extent, they engage the print media and so forth, so the information is there. Save and except that now that we're in opposition, we don't have access to the National Communications Network, DPI, and several of those media outfits that are pro-PPP or government aligned. And then more so too, they don't carry what the opposition is doing and saying for fear that the PPP, because everyone knows the PPP is very vindictive, that they will pull advertisements and so forth from their respective station. We've had those encounters. You go to the print media and you present them with certain information, they will censor it. They will tell you that I can't put this because likely I would be sued. We read in the newspapers every day that Kaichor News publisher has been sued and the person successfully won that. So a lot of the other media entities are fearful of similar happening to them. So therefore, when the opposition speaks, many of our comments, our statements and so forth are not carried in the media.
You know, Mr. Christopher Jones, not getting back into the past, but I just wish that the coalition had a different approach as it pertains to the media and handling the media's business. Many of us, for the most part, were shut out from even getting proper information or even proper support advice. We saw Kaicho News, Starbuck News get over $250 million worth of ads. And the media houses that were somewhat sympathetic towards the coalition had to battle for a piece of crumbs. Those days are gone. Let us go to, and I know lots of things happening in the country, but I know you guys are preparing for Congress. Before we get to Congress, what are some of the other important things in the country that the PPP is doing discriminatory across the country, especially to the ordinary folks who are not getting some sort of representation? What are you guys doing in the opposition to highlight that, Mr. Ganesh Mahipal? Those sort of things.
Mark, listen, without a doubt, the PPP is like the demon in Guyana. And everything that these people do, there is some degree of corruption that is associated with it. There is some degree of malpractice and some wickedness that is associated with what they do. Everything that they have done since they stole office and basically put themselves in their borrowed robes is really riddled with mishaps, corruption, and bad for Guyana. And the opposition has to basically have that eye on them with limited resources. We do not have staff. So when we do our work, it is like if we have to watch them and the departments that are under them. The opposition is 31, well, 32, Schumann being 32, 31 in the APNU AFC. And that 31, we have to watch every move that they make. I believe we try our utmost, all 31 of us from the coalition. We try our utmost to look at what they are doing and call them out for what they are doing. And I will accept that we may not have had the best approach in terms of public relations. I am no public relations expert, but I believe that experience is indeed the best teacher. And of course, it will be necessary for us upon return to office to examine public relations. Because like Chris said, we really did a lot of work. But equally so, I know that Imran Khan, God rest his soul, when he was at the Department of Public Information, there were a number of strategies that were introduced. I remember regions had their own particular newspapers that were printed regularly and sent into the regions. Region 3 had one called West Side Diary. And there were a number of other Berbice Delight or something like that for Berbice. And then you had Essequibo Express. Then you had Rupununi something. And then I think Region 10 had Region 10 Leisure. Something along that line. Information were disseminated. The question is, how much were we familiarizing ourselves with the information? I remember a number of programs were had, and a lot of things were done, but it's whether it had the impact and effect you expected it to have. That is the question. And perhaps you are correct. There is a need for us to revisit PR and basically do it differently. But how different is this administration doing it from the coalition? How different is this installed regime doing
Honorable
it?
Ganesh Paul, I don't think the people are concerned about how much different they're doing. Nobody gives a damn about this installed regime and how they're doing it. People are talking about what you guys should have done. You guys accepted that mistakes were made from the PR standpoint, but that has been hammered home for many years. But I'm glad that you guys have come to the realization. We don't want to dwell much on that. Yes, mistakes were made. Let us hope that you guys correct that. Lots of mistakes were made in terms of
But I did say, Mark,
how
I
some
did
of the
say that
members.
experience.
If I can finish, please, Honorable MP, this is my parliament. I'm the Speaker of the House here.
Honorable member.
Remember,
Thank you, Mr. Go ahead, Mr. Ganesh.
remember no, I was going to say that, remember, I did say that experience is the best teacher. And upon our resumption to office, I believe that we will do what is necessary to correct all the mistakes we made. But I believe equally so, the people of this country, they have recognized that they lost the coalition, which is way better than this regime that they have. Because we were all for all Guyana, not part of Guyana. And this regime is just for their friends, their families, and a small circle where they steal and put everything in their pockets.
So true. Mr. Mahipal, let me give you an advice. I've been around for a long time. I'm an old man. Sometimes it doesn't take much to get much done at all. And I'll give you an example with the Ben Sharp Foundation. We never had much, but we were almost all over the country every single day, every single weekend, traveling around, ensuring that the free computer courses, CXC, and all these sort of things, whether we had gas for the vehicle or not, whether I was locked up or not, I came right up to the lockup and straight off doing my business. Sometimes it doesn't take much to get much done. I just try to.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Yeah, Mr. Chris Jones, the People's National Congress reform, and I commend you guys in the PNCR for believing in democracy, because we're seeing a process that we have hardly seen before. Congratulations to the PNC for that, in terms of that democratic process. But how is that going so far in terms of Congress, the preparation for the votes, and so forth? What is your take on things?
All right. So, Mark, let me just say thank you very much for that comment, because indeed we strongly believe so. The PNC, as a mass-based political movement in Guyana, is truly one of the only truly democratic organization that is there. People want to see us are the thing, but we demonstrate it every single day through the processes that we have. Thus far, the preparation for the hosting of the 21st Biannual Delegates Conference is well on its way. We've had all of the committees that are necessary to ensure the smooth running of the Congress. Those committees have been put in place and they have started their work. You saw just last week, Friday, the accreditation committee ran a successful nomination day. That was incident-free. It was very transparent. It was open. The entire media corps was invited to Congress Place Savaya. It was live stream, and you heard from the various candidates and their representatives and so forth. Just today, we had another Central Executive Committee meeting in which we continue to be briefed by the various chairs of the various committees as their preparation move closer to the election day on the 11th of December. But thus far, the process is very smooth and so far incident free.
All right, good for that. Ganesh, I've noticed that you yourself, you're pretty busy. Is this the first Congress that you are actively involved in? And if so, what is your take on the process so far, sir?
Well, let me say, first of all, I've been involved in PNCR Congresses since 2011. And my first Congress was the Special Delegates Congress, where we elected as a party David Granger as the presidential candidate for the PNCR and later the APNU. So that was my first Congress, and I've been involved in Congresses after that, all the Congresses after that. So
one of the things what I said though, Mr. Mahipal, the key word is actively involved.
I was actively involved in those Congresses too, Mark.
But now you're all over the place. Now you're all over the place. You look like the candidate. You look like the candidate.
Well, I am. Well, technically, I was nominated for. I saw that I got nominations for vice chair, and I also got nomination for treasurer and central exec committee member.
Are
But
you
I will.
accepting any? Are you accepting
Pardon?
any? Are you accepting any of those nominations?
Well, I'm going to accept the nomination for Central Executive Committee member, and I will decline nominations for Vice Chair and Treasurer. And consider yourself privileged because this is the first time I'm saying this on Bench Cop Radio 107.1. And I owe it to Bench Cop Radio to make that announcement because this is a radio station I am very popular on. So consider yourself privileged, Mark.
Well, there's no other radio
Now,
station. There's no other radio station that does this. We are not just Facebook. We are on the ground as well. There are people in their
I
cars
hear
listening
you.
and their homes.
So let me tell you.
Go ahead, Mr. Mike.
Let me tell you, the People's National Congress reform, without a doubt, is the most democratic political party and perhaps the only democratic party in this country. We have an open process, and we have always had an open process when it comes to our delegates Congress. All the processes that you see being happening now, they were happening in previous Congresses. But it's just that you have more technology in this day and age, Facebook and social media, live streaming and all of these things. So you're actually just seeing it now. But always, there was always nomination day. There was always this, what I will term as a claims and objection period. There was always this open, transparent process that led to a clean election whenever we have delegates Congress, and it is similar for our regional conferences. We are not the backdoor kind of party where we hide and select a candidate. We allow our membership to participate. And our party has a membership of somewhere around 80 to 90,000 or thereabout. And I think it has grown over time, and probably it's in the hundreds of thousands now. But every group, they have to reach and they have to meet and select their delegates who will come to represent their interests. And for every 10 member in a group, one delegate is named, and that delegate comes with the mandate from the group to cast their ballot for the leader or for the vice chairman or for the chairman or for the treasurer or for the 15 executive members. And then you have automatic delegates too, by virtue of you being a candidate at the last elections, whether it is the last local government elections or general and regional elections, you are a automatic delegate. So you are also entitled to come and cast your ballot. And it is done in such a transparent manner that you can only associate the results with a good, clean election. You can't do it no other way. There has been no evidence to support or substantiate any falsehood when it comes to an election in the People's National Congress reform. And I sit here and speak to you, saluting a clean process that is institutionalized in the People's National Congress reform. And I'm a proud member of this party associated with such a proud process. I can't help but say to you that I'm happy.
We sense that passion in you. We know, we feel it. You've been here with us and Bench Up Radio until you quit to go on campaign. But I've noticed there's a one Anthony here that's saying Christopher Jones and Ganesh discussing party business. Right?
I'm not.
We have some listeners, man. They're true to it. Sometimes we disagree with each other, but what I like about them is they're still here respectfully. Mr. Chris Jones, I've noticed that 7 persons have been nominated for the leader to run for the leadership of the PNCR. 7 of them. 7 of them. I have seen, maybe for the first time, maybe I'm wrong, right? Because this is the first Congress that has so much publicity that we have never seen before. It is a fact. All eyes are on this Congress. But one of the things that I have not seen, and correct me, Mr. Jones and Mahipal, so many persons have been nominated for chairman and vice chairman. Has that been the case in the past, Mr. Jones?
Essentially, well, in terms of leader, no. In terms of vice chairman, we had congresses in the past in which you had that high volume of persons being nominated.
What about the chairman? The chairman?
Yeah, for chairman, right? And as it relates to the vice chairman, you note that it's two vice chair persons, and as such, the number of persons that would be nominated for that will be
larger.
Yeah, it's larger. And of course, for central exec, being that it's 15 persons that each group have to nominate. So essentially, in terms of the numbers that are in, it's currently 700. But of course, there's duplication in that. So the accreditation committee is now working to remove the duplication, and then we will know the actual amount of persons who have been nominated for the central exec. It could be within the vicinity of about 165 persons.
Wow.
Because the last Congress that we had, it was, I think, 185 persons that were nominated for the central exec committee. And of course, I was successful with the highest numbers for that particular position.
That's to become a central executive member.
That's
now, let
correct.
me ask you this, Mr. Jones. What have you been nominated for?
I have been nominated for chairman, vice chairman, and of course, central executive.
Central exec. Now, let me ask you this now, too. Say for the current central executive members, they have to run again?
That's correct. All of the offices will be vacant, and all of the positions have become vacant.
Fair enough. Which position? Look into the lens. Tell our listeners right now, all across Guyana and other parts of the world, which position you will accept?
I will accept the nomination for vice chairman, as well as a member of the central executive committee.
Fair enough. What makes you a good candidate, or probably you may say the best candidate to be elected as one of the vice chairs of the party?
All right. So essentially, I consider myself one of the best person for the position because of my intention once elected in office. I have noted that over the years, our youth base in terms of our youth movement and our youth membership has depleted to some extent. And my intention, by virtue of being the immediate past chairman of the Guyana Youth and Student Movement, is to work with the existing body across the length and breadth of the country. And of course, to reform and of course, bring new groups into the GYSM across the length and breadth of the country. I would have been sharing with the party groups that I've engaged with so far those intentions that essentially for me, the next 2 years exclusively will be focusing on building back the youth base of the party. And I've mentioned before too as well, the hosting of the Guyana Youth and Student Movement's biannual Congress, which as well is due. Having an opportunity to invite young professionals to join the youth movement, because over the years, like Ganesh and myself, we would have received a lot of expression of interest from young people wanting to join a youth movement and so forth, but you can't seem to direct them specifically where they can go. As I mentioned before, as the immediate past chairman of the GYSM, I also serve on the executive of the GYSM with responsibility for mobilization and outreach. And not boasting, but during my tenure, we've had functioning GYSM groups across the length and breadth of the country with the hosting of conferences, youth leadership retreat at Camp Madawini, in which we had as high up as former President Hugh Desmond Hyde addressing those members, former party leader Robert Corbyn, just to name a few. I am passionate about working with youths. I am noted for working with youths, and I want to avail myself to the party exclusively for the next 2 years to build back that youth base, to build back the youth movement.
Mr. Chris Jones, we wish you all the best with that. A quick question before we get back to Mr. Ganesh. Mahipal, your stint as Director of Sports, would you say that you have done sufficient throughout the country in that area of sports, reaching out to young people and so forth and so on. And by virtue of your performance, it says what sort of person you will be were you elected as one of the vice chairs, meaning a competent vice chair that is needed.
Right. All right. So my stint as director of sports, I would say that I was not able to accomplish all that I wanted to accomplish across the length and breadth of the country, mainly due to constraints in which I think Mark, Ganesh, and some members of the public are aware of those hindrances that I had. But essentially, we had mapped out, and that is the National Sports Commission as a body, we had mapped out development of sports, decentralizing some specific sports, focusing exclusively on the hinterland regions, particularly regions 1, 7, 8, and 9, for the particular sports discipline that could be had in those respective areas. Like, for example, we were big on identifying young swimmers from those regions, as mentioned, because if you go to those particular regions, swimming is a national pastime. Some of the kids learn to swim as early as 6 months old. So our task then was to identify the necessary trainers to take them into those regions and, of course, work with them to teach them the necessary technique as it relates to that swimming. We worked with Archery Guyana for the first time, providing them with the necessary funding. And we had actually brought an expert into Guyana. He trained 19 local persons as level 1 coaches in archery. And those persons came from regions 1, 7, 8, and 9. So they went back, and it was essentially a training of trainers program that we started there in those regions. The very year we attempted to bring out archers to participate in the national athletics meet that was being had at the Lenora Center. Of course, again, we had issues there, but those persons are trained. As we speak currently, those level 1 coaches, as I mentioned, have been trained under us. They are still working in those respective regions. And a lot of the Amerindian communities in which they're working with, those young people can now, at any point in time, go abroad to represent Guyana in the sport of archery for the first time. In terms of decentralizing sports, as I mentioned before as well, is that heavy emphasis was always placed, particularly as it relates to the football in Georgetown. And if you go in communities like the upper and mid Mazaruni, you would see both male and female participating in football competition, in which there's no pegs that they're running on, but they're barefooted on laterite. And when you see these young people perform there and you bring them to Georgetown, it is no match. The local teams in Georgetown cannot compete with them. We've seen during Heritage Month, when you have the football competition there at Everest Ground, and they bring those teams out from the upper and mid Mazaruni to compete in Georgetown. The level of competition, as adumbrated by the Guyana Football Federation, they have never seen that level of competition played any part in Georgetown, that it prompted the Guyana Football Federation to do similar programs in those outlying regions. And I think to date, they are still currently working with those communities and so forth. In terms of ground development, we are always big, because when we got into the Sports Commission, the government at the time, the PPP, was allocating $1 million for ground enhancement. And of course, it made absolutely no sense, because all of the monies could have done is essentially weed and the bush offense. We moved those monies up from $1 million to minimum $5 or $10 million per community ground. As we speak, I can take you any part of this country and show you a ground that has been completely developed by the National Sports Commission, in which there's fence, there's lights, and so forth. We place heavy emphasis on lights, because one of the challenges that most of the communities had, that when there's sundown, there's no access to the ground. And we had started that program, the Light It Up program, and that program ran successfully for 3 years. I see the current minister is still continuing with that program. Obviously, he wouldn't say where it came from, but essentially we did that. I can take you to Arnaputa Valley in Region 9, which is an Amerindian community far-flung just out of Anai, and you will see a community ground that is completely lit. I can take you into the upper and mid Mazaruni in Amerindian communities, in which those communities have ground and have lights that they actually function in. And I'll give you a quick insight into
Take me to quarantine.
I'll take you to quarantine. I'll take you as far up as Scottsburg. Ground there in Skeldon. That is completely
You
done.
got me there. You got me there. You got me there, Honorable MP.
Yeah,
But
I'll
let me
bring you
say
down
this
to-
before we go
yeah.
back to Mr. Mahipal. You got me there. It's too bad that you guys had weak PR when you were in office. The coalition, it's a fact. Let me ask you this, though, or let me say this, that when you were sports advisor, there were several occasions I met with you. I called you, and I don't want anybody to say that I'm endorsing Chris Jones tonight. If I have to endorse anybody, I wouldn't shy away. I wouldn't run away from endorsing, but I'll hold back if at all there will be any endorsement of anyone. But Mr. Jones, let me say publicly that at least whenever I called your office, you were always there as a sports advisor. I remember I met with you for some stuff for Queen's College when I was one of the executives of the PTA. You met and you were ready for that. You did a lot also for STEM Guyana, the young people. You forget about that too, right? So let me give you kudos to that, right? But I still want to hear from the other candidates for this position. But I tell you what, you seem to be very strong, a very strong and powerful candidate. Let's go over to the guy who used to work here at 107.1 FM until he got fired, Ganesh Mahipal. What will make you an effective member this time around again of the Central Executive, and why should people vote for you to become a member of the Central Executive again?
Mark, I believe that service to humanity is service to God. That is something that I hold very dear to me. And in all my life, I can only think of being of service. And I think I serve and serve well. But it is the people, it is the delegates, it is the groups who must know my ability for them to put that vote to my name. And the reason why I accepted the nomination for Central Exec Committee member is because a number of groups would have nominated me. And if they are reposing that confidence in me because they see the quality of a serviceman, then when service is asked of me, then serve I must. And I have always wanted to see this political party return to its glorious days. And the only way I can contribute to that is by actually being a part of the system. I cannot sit from the outside and want to dictate how the inside must operate. The structure allows me to be a part of the inside, and that is by putting my name up for election, allowing the delegates to elect me in a democratic process, and they have reposed that confidence by way of nomination. Then they have seen something in me to make this party what it ought to be, the greatest political party in Guyana. And it's on that basis that I have accepted the nomination, and I will serve with distinction because service is called of me.
All right, well said, Ganesh. We wish you all the best, and we have no reason to doubt otherwise in terms of your election back into the Central Executive. We wish you all the best, and when you do, you can at least share 15% of your first salary with us here at 107.1 FM. We know.
It's not a paid position. It's not a paid position.
I know, but I was talking about the other position as MP. Right? But let me say this, though, Mr. Mahipal. We all know that you support a candidate. You're not ashamed of that. You are running all over. You are coming on programs. Just wish the candidate was, but you are busy all over with your candidate. We'll get back to that shortly. Let's go to Mr. Christopher Jones. The other day, there was a candidate who published the names, photographs, a handsome photograph of a Chris Jones on the team. Chris Jones almost immediately said, no, remove my name. I'm not really on your, that's not an endorsement of you. I didn't give permission for my photograph to be there. Um, what really happened? And are you endorsing that individual? What's happening? Talk to us.
I'm so happy. I'm so pleased that I'm finally asked the question as to what transpired, and let me try to be as pellucid as possible. So having been a member of the PNC for 23 years and having been part of many congresses in the years gone by, you will have persons who would be on multiple slates, which is nothing new. It's completely normal. It's harmless and so forth. In fact, when you find yourself on multiple slates, you consider yourself privileged and humble that those respective candidates identify you as somebody who they would want on their slate, and that is understandable. But you see, when it comes to using a person's image and sharing that on social media, it conveys the impression that you have endorsed this particular candidate. And why I had to put out that statement to debunk that is this. Persons have to understand that the process in the PNC's election is first past the post. It is not proportional representation. So it is not a case that if a particular candidate wins, you who are on his or her slate automatically wins. It is every candidate for him or herself. It is first past the post. And obviously, you as a candidate, you have to try to garner votes from all sides of the spectrum of the party, whether it is Team Harmon, Team Aubrey, Team Van West Charles. You have to garner votes. And if my image is shared and it conveys the impression that I have endorsed a particular candidate, it means that I can lose votes from a other side of the party. And that is why I had to debunk that. And essentially, it is not the first time that I've made that pronouncement. If you go back to the Stabrook News, I think of about 3 weeks ago, when just after Mr. Harmon launched his campaign, Stabrook News did an interview with me, and they asked me who have I endorsed. And since then, I made the point that I have endorsed no candidate. And of course, I stated the very point that I made just now to you, Mark. These elections in the PNC is first past the post. It is not proportional representation, and therefore a person can't run away with the view that if by virtue of I am on a slate, if the candidate wins, automatically I win. No, it's not. It is first past the post. Every candidate has to garner votes for him or herself. And that is why I've remained the middle ground and pitched to the members of the party my platform, what I intend to do for the party once elected to serve.
Well said. The Honorable Member of Parliament and Chief Whip Christopher Anthony Jones?
Anderson.
Wow. Yeah. The previous Congress, you ran for a seat in the position in the Central Executive. That's correct. That's why you were on the set. Or was it automatic because you were then head of the YSM?
No.
Nothing is automatic.
GYSM is. GYSM and the National Congress of Women, the chairperson and a rep, they have 2 seats on the Central Executive.
So the last Congress, you ran for a seat in the Central Exec.
Correct, and I also ran for vice chairman at the time. But yes, I did. But I ran off a slate as well. I ran independently and lost by 16 votes. Wow. But when it came to the Central Executive, I topped it.
So during the last Congress, did you endorse anyone?
No, I did not.
You did not.
No. Yeah.
You knocked me out there for stump because there was a follow-up question there.
Okay.
But that's okay, Mr. Jones. We're focusing on this Congress here now. Let's get back to Mr. Ganesh Mahipal. We're not here to talk about your candidate, but we know that you have been promised that if your candidate is elected, if anything can happen, if your candidate is elected, then you will be the next General Secretary of the People's National Congress Reform. You're busy. You're really busy around the country because you're watching that seat that Ms. Amna Ali is sitting in. And let us say you get that opportunity to sit in that seat as was promised to you, What will you do to bring the grassroots and the togetherness and this unity back to the party?
Mark, let me say first of all that I am not looking for political survivability in the PNCR. I am looking for a leader that I know can put the PNCR where it rightfully belongs and bring this PNCR and by extension the APNU AFC back into government. And that is why I am robustly campaigning for Comrade Joseph Harmon. So let me throw it out of the way from its onset. Even if I was not the person he reposed the confidence in for the seat of General Secretary, I would have still been doing what I am doing. Christopher Jones is on this call with me here, on this interview with me, and I believe he can attest to the fact that when I am in campaign mode and if I believe in a comrade, I fight for that comrade. This is not me now. I have been doing this since 2011. In 2011, I was with Carl Greenidge all the way. I fought to the last for Carl Greenidge, just the same as I'm fighting here. Carl Greenidge, unfortunately, lost in his bid for presidential candidate. And when David Granger was elected by the political party that I love, I fought same energy, same zeal and zest for David Granger to be president of this country. So I am not a person that really and truly think of myself in this race. And this is not throwing any stone at anyone else. But I look at a bigger picture. I look at a leader for a political party that plays a role in people's lives. I look at
one question, Mr. Mahipal, and with all due respect, I'm asking you, were you to be selected as the next General Secretary of the People's National Congress, what will you do to bring unity within the party?
Well, that is what I was getting at. I was setting the stage so you can understand my thinking.
No, but you're going through the back door in setting the stage. I want you to set the stage without talking about a leader.
But you see, the office of the General Secretary is to really and truly manage the affairs of the political party from an administrative standpoint. And that office takes its guidance from the Central Executive Committee. And it also is a creature, the office is a creature of the leader of the party. The leader is also the head, I will say, of the Central Exec. So the policy direction is set by the Central Exec, and it has to be executed by the General Secretary and the staff of the Congress place. When you speak about unity, my contribution to unity will be one where we can bring the comrades that we have already in the party together, bring back the ones who left for one reason or another, and win over those who want to come. But of course, in terms of the policy direction to execute that, it will require the contribution of the Central Exec and not just a single individual, because the Central Exec is the policy board of the party.
Well said, Mr. Ganesh Mahipal. Lemon is indicating that, hey, it's 18 minutes after 10 o'clock in beautiful Guyana. I know you guys have had a very, very, very busy day, and I want to show some respect for that. Mr. Christopher Jones, let me say this, that we here at 107.1 FM, we wish all of the candidates all the best. Our platform is for you guys to come and talk exactly what you can do were you to be elected vice chair or back into the Central Exec. The same with Mr. Ganesh Mahipal. This is what we call democracy. It doesn't matter who Ganesh supports. But mind you, Mr. Ganesh Mahipal, when you do see your candidate, tell him that he is still needed here on 107.1 FM for an interview.
I most certainly will. But I must remind you, my candidate is not just one who's seeking office. He's also the leader of the opposition. So he's not bound by this Congress alone. He also has a constitutional responsibility for the people of this country. take that into consideration also when you're throwing your shades, you know. And I could
I'm not. Tell your candidate. Let me ask you this, Ganesh. 1 second, Mr. Jones.
Sure.
Is your candidate, Mr. Joseph Frederick Harmon, is he prepared for a debate amongst the other candidates?
my
Norton
candidate
and Van
my,
Star.
my candidate has never shied away from a debate, nor has he shied away from mentioning publicly, and Christopher Jones can attest to this, nor has he shied away from signing on the dotted lines that regardless of whether he win, lose or draw, he is prepared to still work for the bettering of the PNCR. He has never shied away from
Are you going to say, are you saying publicly that if a debate is set up, that your candidate will drop whatever he's doing and walk into that debate section and ready to debate Aubrey Norton and John Westgards or whoever else?
He will not shy away from a debate, Mark, but don't run away from the fact that he has to build a case for the membership of the party to judge him. This delegates Congress is about delegates electing you and not necessarily this public happening as much
Fair
as
enough.
it is important.
But a lot of the delegates who have not voted yet, a lot of the delegates who have not voted. 1 second.
You have to allow me.
You no longer have rights at Bench Up Radio. 1
Let
second.
me do this. Like I can't take back the job for getting right, or woman. Let me tell you this. Do you know? Let me tell you this. My candidate is right now speaking to 2 groups that have delegates to elect him at Congress. This battle is with the delegates, and he is in the office, field, and factory rallying the troops to elect him as the next leader of the PNCR. And I have no doubt that with the hard work he has done and what he will continue to do, he will be elected as leader of this mighty and great party, the PNCR.
Ganesh Mahipal sticking with his candidate, man. Mr. Christopher Jones. And nothing is wrong with that, Mr. Mahipal. Your conviction, you believe in somebody, it is your democratic right. And that is what I've been saying to other folks. Those who believe in Norton, fair enough. Those who believe in Van West Charles, fair enough. Those who believe in the others, it is okay.
Mark, maybe I should make this point. Maybe I should. You should give me a second or two to make this point. This campaign is not one against Comrade Norton, you know, nor is it one against Comrade Van West Charles. For me, it is a campaign for Joseph Harmon. And I have always said that all 3 of these gentlemen, they are exemplary human beings. They are distinguished in their own rights. But I personally believe that Joseph Harmon has what it takes and can walk the walk. But I have no issue, quells or qualms, with the other 2 candidates who I know very well also, and I will happily work with them should they be elected. But I am confident beyond all shadows of doubt that my candidate has a proven track record, and he will be elected the leader of this mighty party to take us back into government and to better the lives of every single one of us plus our offspring. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chris, at the end of this process, people want all the differences to be put aside, all of the obvious bad blood or what is perceived to be bad blood. It's elections time. People will flare up. People will allow emotions and so forth. Are you convinced that at the end of this process, whoever becomes the next leader of the People's National Congress reform, that all of the bad blood will be put aside and these folks are willing to work in the interest of unifying the party and possibly taking the party to victory at the next general and regional elections?
I say yes. I say yes. Indeed, over the past few weeks or a few months thereabout, I have seen a party base that has become so excited about getting back in office. The Congress of the PNCR is considered just a stop in that process to identify new leadership to take over the party and continue that thrust. I think the members of the PNCR are so focused on removing the People's Progressive Party Civic from office is that essentially they can't wait to have this Congress concluded so that they will move on. What is important to note is that essentially all three candidates, Comrade Harman, Comrade Norton, and Comrade Van West Charles, has already signaled and have been signaling in all of the meetings and engagement that they've been having with the party members that they intend to work with whoever emerges as the leader of the party, because it is that critical and important in terms of the real enemy, and which is the People's Progressive Party Civic. And the party members, I am certain, I say this without fear of contradiction, the party members are focused on the real enemy that exists, because on a daily basis, the pressures of what is happening in this country is insurmountable. And to not focus on the real enemy and confront that enemy, and to deal with internal party matters after a Congress, I know for certain the membership is not prepared to go that route. They want to have the Congress concluded with and move on so that we can get the People's National Congress reform and its coalition partners back in government, because Guyana needs it. The PNCR is essentially the heart of this country. There are thousands of people across the length and breadth of this country outside of the party members who are delegates at this Congress. They're looking to the PNCR for leadership. These elections, as I mentioned, is just essentially a stop in that process to identify new leaders. Mark, I want to say that I know for certain coming out from this Congress, you will see the largest number of youth or young representatives taking up the leadership mantle. Outside of the three candidates for leader, every other post under that will be comprised with young people. And that too is a signal from the PNCR, its emphasis on youth involvement at every level. And therefore, the membership of this party has placed or reposed those confidence in the number of young people that have been nominated for the various positions in the party.
Mr. Mahipal, we're looking at the time. Lemon has just signaled us. I need for you to be brief on this question before we go to closing remarks. Very brief. Do you honestly believe that opposition leader, the Honorable Joseph Frederick Harman, were he to be elected leader of the People's National Congress reform, would the people see a different style of leader as leader of the PNCR, or the same style that he has as opposition leader right now?
I believe that the leader of the opposition is right now constrained from being who he actually is in terms of his ability to lead, because as leader of the opposition, he is still subjected to direction from the political party he belongs to, and also subjected to the political parties that make up the coalition, which is in the National Assembly, of which he is the leader of. And I believe that if he is allowed to be the leader of the political party that he's associated with, he will be moving with the full weight of the party behind him, and he will be speaking with the authority of the party behind him in order to get things done. And I've said umpteen times that when you look at how the PNCR has always been, the leader of the party has always been the leader in the National Assembly for the political party. Joseph Harman is constrained right now, and if he's given the latitude and the wing to fly at the free will with the power of the PNC, he will be a better leader, a better person in the seat of leader of the opposition, and he will shake mountains to remove and unseat the People's Progressive Party from government.
You said shake mountains, and I saw like the computer started to shake right away. I don't know about Afras, Guzman, and Usman, and all of them there. Good evening, Juan Anthony, all the folks you're hearing. Marla Alicock, all of you're hearing. Quickly, Mr. Jones, the Honorable Chief Whip. I wanted this to be your closing remark, but I have one other thing, picking up on what Mr. Ganesh Mahipal said there. Let's say there is a scenario right now, or after the election, that Mr. Harman is not elected as the leader, but Mr. Norton is elected, or Mr. Van West Charles is elected. would you see a power struggle here between the leader of the PNCR and the opposition?
No, I don't see that. Essentially, I know for certain that leader of the opposition is the leader of the opposition. It's a constitutional office, and one way or the other, the leader of the opposition will hold that office for the next 5 years. The leader of the PNCR will hold that office for another 2 years. In the current construct of the PNCR, is that the central executive of the party gives policy directive to whether it's the members of parliament, members of the regional democratic councils, or members of the city council or the neighborhood democratic council. I don't see a power struggle, but essentially I see leaders with responsibility for various aspects carrying out those functions effectively. I don't see a struggle.
All right, thank you so much. Very briefly, Mr. Ganesh Mahipal, your closing remarks, please, on not just the Congress, but the future of Guyana, and offering the support base of the coalition some form of hope that there will be a better Guyana soon.
Thank you, Mark. If I may add my voice to the question you just asked, Comrade
No,
Jones.
I don't want you to add your voice at all. You no longer have that privilege here at 107.1.
I think you're indirectly signaling to me that I need to come back on Bench Cop Radio. I'll consider it, brother. I'll consider it. But you see, my problem is that when you have two heads, you have the head of the leader of the opposition and you have the head of the party that is the largest party in the coalition, being different persons, then you're seeing different ideological thinking with these people, and you're going to see different management style. And I don't ever believe that a boat should have two captains, nor do I believe a house should have two heads. I believe that the leader of the political party, the PNCR, should be the person that leads us in the National Assembly and represent our cause. And right now what you have is that a leader of the opposition that has to subject himself to the party and await directives from the party. And that to me presents a problem, and I don't want that to continue. I want to know that my leader can speak with the weight of the political party in which he belongs. Christopher Jones made a very interesting point that people should take or be cognizant of. The leader of the opposition cannot be removed from that office until a general and regional elections is called. And the leader of the Congress,
not unless and the chief whip can agree, the opposition leader does not have to wait until a new elections is called to be removed. He or she can be removed by a vote of no confidence, a motion of no confidence being introduced. Am I correct, Chief Whip?
From whom?
By the opposition members in parliament.
Yeah. There can be one opposition member who says they do not have confidence in the opposition leader. Another one second it, they go run for a vote. It can happen.
I didn't want to answer it right away because I asked the question by whom to hear what Mark would have said. But the point is, Mark, that we have to recognize that Congress is every 2 years. Biennial delegates Congress. And I'm saying to all delegates that gave Joseph Harman that try, link the two offices together, synchronize the two offices together, and you will see, if you don't see that remarkable triumphant success that I speak of to come, then you can change him in 2 years' time. But give him the try. I thank you on that note.
You know, the constitution of the PNCR, I believe, Mr. Chris Jones, this is the first time in the history of the PNC that the leader of the opposition is not the leader of the party. I don't know what sort of accommodation the PNCR's constitution.
Look where it has us.
I don't know.
Look where we are with that kind of practice.
Yeah. Mr. Ganesh Mahipal, thank you for your closing remarks. Please. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very
Jones,
much, Mark, as always.
Your closing remarks. Your closing remarks, Mr. Jones.
All right. So again, Mark, this Congress that is going to be had by the PNCR, I think the public should also note that it is history in the making. As I said to members of the Central Executive today, subject to correction, is that essentially this is the first time in the PNC's history that the entire principal officers will not be going back into office, as in the leader, the chairman, the vice chairpersons, the general secretary, the treasurer of the party, subject to correction unless one of those persons accept the nomination and vie back for the office. But essentially, once they do not, it is history in the making that for the first time in the PNC's history, that the entire principal officers will not be returning to office. I mentioned too as well.
Chris, I must correct you there, because I must correct you, and sorry to interject, but I do know that Comrade Annette Ferguson accepted nomination, and she made it known yesterday that she accepted nomination for vice chair. She is a serving vice chair, so I must correct you there.
I should probably add the young ones, but okay, I get you. Right, so it is that significant. As well, too, it's the first time that the Congress is being hosted during a global pandemic. It's the first time that the Congress is being held in several regions, and including those in the diaspora. All of this is history in the making. It is something to be very excited about. And it is once again the PNC demonstrating to all and sundry the type of political movement that it is, truly democratic. The PNCR for the 2011 election held primaries in which the party identified its presidential candidate. It never happened in any of the political parties' history. And here it is again during the global pandemic. It's the PNCR hosting its biannual Congress, albeit via social platform. A history in the making. The PNC continues to make strive as a truly democratic movement in this country. And of course, we continue to open the doors to all and sundry to come and partner with us. Some people see from time to time the little excitement with people back and forth as issues in the party, but it is not. It is a democratic process that is unfolding before you. Unlike a political party like the PPP, where you wake up tomorrow and learn that a central exec identify somebody as a presidential candidate or the leader of the party, or you don't even know who is the leader of the party and so forth. It is not so with the PNC. So we extend an invitation to all and sundry to come and partner with us and give us the opportunity once again to govern this country as we did in the coalition for the last 5 years, in which you truly live a comfortable life. Whereas public servants, you continue to receive your increases in wages and salaries, in which you didn't have to run and hide, or whether or not thieves are going to kick down your door or rob you at gunpoint. That is happening currently in the streets of this country. This month, November, Guyana should have been going to local government elections. And it is noteworthy to mention that the PPP is back in office. And once again, local elections have been set aside by the PPP. You know, we fought over 23 years for the hosting of local government elections. The APNU AFC, through President David Granger, said that once we are in office, we will host elections. Within a year, we hosted a successful local government election after 23 years of none. And then we held a second local government election. That is truly demonstration of democracy at work. And the PPP is back in office just over 1 year, and local government election again has been set aside. These are the things that we continue to fight for the people of this country. And that's why we extend an invitation to you to come and partner with us, be part of the movement so that we could get back the reins of government in this country and continue to provide you with that safe, good life that we spoke of.
You know, well said, Mr. Christopher Jones. Well said, sir. People would jump and partner with anybody. But what the people want, Mr. Christopher Jones and Mr. Mahipo, is before they jump and partner with people, they want to see success stories. And this is not to say that the opposition, a lot of you guys have been lazy and delinquent and so forth. I know quite a few of you guys have been out there. You're very busy, but the people need to see more action before they jump to partnering with individuals. And I do wish you guys all the best. I do want to see people jump and partner with you guys, but I also need to see more boots, lots of boots on the ground. With that said, I wish you both gentlemen the best of luck. I know you are hardworking, and let the people decide come Congress voting day on the 12th of December. Is it?
11.
the 11th of December. Don't be a stranger. Come right back here. You have this is your forum as well. All of you guys, come on here and sell your points, sell your candidates. We're not going to shut the door against anybody. We wouldn't do that. Thank you, gentlemen, so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Mark.
Yeah, you Ganesh.
Yeah.
Thank you. And when you see your candidate,
I forgot to mention this. Chris, you have my vote for vice chair.
I just got to say the same thing. That's what too. Yeah, you got my vote, Ganesh. I told you that I would put you as general secretary if I was elected, if I was nominated leader.
Yes, you did. You did.
Yes.
So you see, Mark,
Chris got Ganesh vote, and Ganesh got.
That's right. It's the young guns. It's the young guns.
I got you guys.
There's method in our madness, Mark. There's method.
It is democracy. It is democracy.
Right.
Yes.
But on the day of voting, is it secret ballot or open voting?
Secret ballot. Secret ballot.
Right. If quickly, Mark, quickly. So
sure.
In the secret ballot, as in the person will go into the balloting area, cast their vote, and of course the box is in the open space where all of the delegates will be able to view that. Because the elections are broken up into the different regions, they will be counting at the place of poll. There will be a statement of poll prepared for that particular location. The representative of the various candidates will receive a copy of that. The returning officer for that specific location will receive a copy of that. That information is then transmitted to headquarters, Georgetown, for the full tabulation and the declaration of the winners.
On elections day, Mr. Christopher Jones, just as Ganesh is about to vote, make sure he show you a little piece.
Take a WhatsApp picture.
Exactly. Let him do like what the guy from Kashif and Shanghai did, right? Took a WhatsApp picture and showed the PPP that he voted for them.
Mark, it's always a pleasure. Thank you very much, brother.
Maybe you should do that too, and you'll get a $340-something million contract.
Pleasant good night,
gentlemen.
Pleasant good night. And
thank you both so much.
Most welcome, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Sure, sir. Democracy in full play, right? Those two gentlemen. We need to hear from some of the other candidates. We will be having some of the other candidates, or all of them, right here. We're not going to run away from them. We don't care who they support. We just don't care. It is democracy, and people have that entitlement to support who they want to support. Come on this program or whichever other program they want to go at to argue their candidate's case or their own case. In the case of Mr. Christopher Jones, arguing why he should be elected as the two vice chairs of the party. There are two. He wants to be the one of them. So it's what we do right here. Tomorrow, we'll be back right here on 107.1 FM. But don't forget, in the morning, 9 o'clock Guyana time, a brand new show, a spanking brand new show. It's called the Mid-Morning Show with Gabriella Patram and Selector Andre. Great job this morning. They did a wonderful job. You would love this program. Don't ever miss out on it. Spread the word about this show. We have other good things in store for all of you right here at 107.1 FM, Guyana's #1 talk show radio in Guyana, an actual radio station in Guyana. I want to remind the opposition that it's a radio station on the ground in Guyana. All right? Good. There's a reason why I want to remind the opposition about that. Oh, sorry. I thought I was in church for a moment. Lemon, thank you so much, Lemon, for a good job, and to all of you guys here. Let me see. I just say hello to good night to all of you, every single one of you. I'll mention some of your names tomorrow. God bless you all, man. God bless you all. And God bless that beautiful country of Guyana. We just love it. All right?
What is the difference between the ordinary thief and a political thief? Number one, the ordinary thief steals your money, your bag, your watch, and your jewelry, isn't it? But the political thief steals your future, your career, your education, your health, and your business. Number 2, the hilarious part is that the ordinary thief will choose whom to rob. But you are the one who choose the political thief to rob you. Because we choose them. We vote them. We blindly say we are not blind. Who is deceiving who? The ridiculous part of the whole issue is that we will fight to defend and protect our belongings from the ordinary thief. Is it not? But we fight each other to defend and protect the political thief. Is that not what we do? Thugs will be fighting themselves to protect those that are stealing our career, stealing our joy, stealing our health, stealing our success. What a shame. What a travesty. It calls for us to think and think deep. The stage we are in as a country is not a stage where you become an onlooker. You have become an onlooker for too long. You must get ready to put your hands to the plow and be part of the process. It's not just about PVC, carry PVC. You must be in the kitchen where it is being determined. You must be there where the decisions are being made. We are there in our numbers, they cannot outnumber us. But you leave it aloof. Oh, no, it's too dirty. It's a dirty game. And then the dirty guy is getting to the game of play. And you are there not showing up. And when they begin to make the decisions, you will know whether it's a dirty game or not. The result is always dirty on yours. Dirty on your health. Dirty on your business. Dirty on your success and your career. I hope that is stirring up something in you.